Good afternoon. Welcome to the Canadian Orthodox Monastery again. I've been asked to present a paper for a conference in Magnetogorsk in Russia on what's called supplementary education. And in looking carefully at the supplementary education for, say, the secondary school students and perhaps even some university level students, it strikes me that some of the things that are included at one time had been a normal part of the curricula in various public schools, at least here in Canada, and perhaps even in Russia before the Revolution. Among those are education in art, music, aesthetics, dance, more classical dance, and things of this level. And as reminds me that Saul of Tarsus, Apostle Paul, had once told us that whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, think on those things. And in his letter to the Philippians. And I was thinking again about what the supplementary education really means and what it actually adds. Because the appreciation of art and music in particular are part of what makes the formation of higher cultures and even of classical dance. There is a certain element in these aesthetic values that are taught that has a moral quality to it as well. And that's why I think Paul mentioned it, that when we have the training of the eye to see and understand things of beauty or things of aesthetic value, it also imparts a kind of moral sense of beauty. And when Dostoevsky said that beauty would save the world, he also understood a certain moral quality to beauty and to the appreciation of beauty. We spoke before about the asceticism of the eye, which is necessary in order to, first of all, to understand and comprehend proper iconography. But the asceticism of the eye, which learns to see beyond the surface and to see and understand the beauty in works of art, sculpture, also expands our appreciation of humanity. Because in our supplementary education, training us to see beauty and to interpret beauty and to have some moral aesthetic understanding of what beauty is, this is part of the asceticism of the eye. Because asceticism, remember, means training, learning how to use things to better abilities. It doesn't mean making yourself miserable or starving yourself to death. It's to train for something. And when we train for the encounter with the eye, we're also training to see the beauty in other human beings and to see the beauty in the divine. Even those things which we cannot see with the physical eyes, to see with deeper kind of spiritual eyes. And so when the supplementary education, one of the great benefits is the expansion of the mind, the expansion of the spirit, and the moral quality of being able to see the beauty in things where we had not noticed it before, and to appreciate that beauty, and to see the beauty in other human beings, and to appreciate that beauty. Now, it's a beauty which we're sometimes locked out of because we see things in a purely sensual way. A beautiful woman can be connected with something sexual right away. And it'll be a physical beauty that doesn't have any pertinence to whether or not there's a beautiful personality or whether or not there's a beautiful character or something beautiful inside. But those things need to be divided somehow. We need to separate ourselves from them. And in the kind of supplemental education, we can look at a painting that we think is ugly on the surface and learn to look beneath the surface and see something far more profound in it. We can also look at a person who perhaps physically isn't beautiful in the sensuous way, or sensual form of way, but nevertheless there's a great beauty in that person as a human being. Even in older people, sometimes when their memories are written on their head like birds in full flight, with the deep creases in the forehead, then we can see a beauty in that as well. So there's a great moral quality to this kind of education, even though this isn't necessarily what it's aimed at originally. And when we want to hear beautiful music, to appreciate music, and perhaps at all levels, and to see the beauty in even higher forms of music, it also tempers and tones our brains and our minds and brings together a certain spiritual quality where we see something that lifts us out of the ordinary and takes us into something somewhat exalted or a little bit higher, and allows us to deeply appreciate the beauty and the intricity and the genius that went behind creating that music. In dance as well, in ballet, for example, where you have actual living sculpture. From moment to moment, the dancers in a ballet become living sculptures. They take their physical form and transform it before your eyes into one sculpture after another in rapid succession, and it creates an image that comes into your mind that tells a story. And it tells a story in a way that takes some kind of spiritual involvement, some kind of mental involvement, something we have to think about. So I think these forms of education are extremely important. And while some of our monastics, I've heard on Mount Athos once that Bach was demonic. No one ever explained to me quite why Bach was supposedly demonic, but in any case, some of the monks were absolutely convinced that he was. They also thought that all forms of music, except for hymnody in church in Byzantine modes, was somehow not holy, not sacred, not pure, and somehow corrupted the person. We find the same kind of teachings in radical Islam as well. And this is something we need to overcome, because the Holy Fathers never condemned secular learning, and music and art, and higher forms of dance, such as ballet, which convey a story, and which have grace and sense to them. These are all things that, when they're taught as supplementary education for people in high school, secondary schools, or in tertiary education institutions, this kind of education expands and brings a person out into a more well-rounded human being, and also gives ability to appreciate the beauty of liturgy, the beauty of art, and most important of all, the beauty of the image and likeness of God that dwells in every other human being, the beauty of humanity, and the beauty of all the creation, and to see that everything God created, and He testified to it and said it was very good. Humanity is also essentially good, and there's a great deal of beauty in humanity, in the human being, the human person. And these kind of extra supplementary education can give us a greater appreciation of that and help us to expand ourselves outside of ourselves and sharpen and enhance our minds and our capability of thinking, seeing, hearing, visualizing, and drinking in the great and rich beauty of creation, and hopefully seeing all human beings as beautiful, and appreciating the differences, appreciating the things that are not us, not exactly like us, appreciating the beautifully sculptured faces of Asiatic people, and some of the great beauty of African peoples. And to see in every type of humanity, in every race, in every kind of humanity, a kind of really deep beauty, and always to look beneath the surface, to see what really lies beneath that first image that strikes our eyes, and then we have to gaze upon it and look upon it and little by little drink in the beauty of it. And it can make us also internally, mentally, spiritually more beautiful.